I'm Steven with my good friend Roy. And since this is the very start of the series, I'd just like to introduce this as a fun little podcast where we discuss a variety of topics such as movies, games, TV shows, and sometimes even websites.
And today we have a whole lineup of interesting subjects for you, including the new Despicable Me 3, the recent Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and the upcoming Star Wars Episode VIII. Additionally, we also will be discussing Game of Thrones Season 7 and a surprise game at the end. So let's get started.
So we all know that Despicable Me 3, is it already up by now? Or is it
It'll
upcoming?
be up in exactly a week. So right now we're recording this on Friday. So the next Friday, June 30th, it'll be
June.
out.
So what do you think of that
So
so far? I mean, from
I've
what you've seen.
seen I've seen a couple trailers, and to be honest, it looks good. I have always loved the Despicable Me franchise for multiple reasons, and I know it's a kids movie and everything, but I love it. It's nice. What about you?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I mean, I've seen I've seen little bits and pieces from the trailers, and I have an idea of what it's going to be about. I know that it's about Gru, and he discovers his long lost brother, right?
That's
And
right.
I don't think they give his name yet, but it's definitely
Man,
it's a plot that's been done before. Um,
yes, for
it's
sure.
not very new in a sense, but I mean, I guess it's creative. I guess it was
It's
necessary.
not absolutely innovative or anything, but right, it can definitely be extremely entertaining, and I
Yeah.
think they will do it right because they have previously in their past two movies. So, um, yeah, the plot itself, I mean, of course, as you said, it's been done before in many, maybe not many, but a few other movies. For example, Parent Trap would be one of them.
Exactly.
But I think Despicable Me brings something new to the thing. Like, it's just, I personally enjoy the comedy of it. Like, I love the fucking minion. Oh, shit. I love the minions. Uh, there's some pretty jolly creatures. Like, they always make me laugh, honestly. Like, and I think the minions are like a very key part of Despicable Me. And I mean, obviously, they have already made a brand for themselves by being the minions. They're hilarious.
They're
Everyone loves
they're the
them.
number one marketing tool of that whole franchise, that whole
Exactly.
movie franchise. Like they're what makes it memorable. And I've personally I've seen little bits and pieces of the first Despicable Me. Um, I don't think I saw any of the second one, but from what I saw in the first one, it was overall pretty decent. I think that Steve Carell, he does an amazing job, and as he
Hilarious.
does
Yeah.
in a lot of his other works. I think the overall plot of it is clever. It has witty dialogue, and it's funny. It's enjoyable, and kids enjoy it. Um,
Absolutely.
and the minions are definitely what makes it very
Yeah.
memorable.
I mean,
It's what makes
they
it,
even already got their own movie, and they have so much merchandise out there. It's incredible. But
they even have I think they have their own app.
yeah, they have so many things out there for them. They're just so lovable. They're hilarious. Like, honestly, I could watch another movie just about them. And like, sure, Despicable Me has other factors that makes it pretty funny. Like the um the three little orphans are pretty cute, and like especially the smallest one is hilarious. And actually, like if you saw the trailer, there's this one part that's like a reference to the first movie where it's like, "It's so fluffy, I want to die." Uh,
Exactly. I know what
it
you're talking
just
about.
cracks me up. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah,
But
the smallest girl says I don't know her name. The youngest one.
yeah,
I don't
she's
remember
cute.
her name. But I mean,
Yeah,
I think there'll be a lot of
I'm pretty hyped
throwbacks to the older films, like the older ones.
for sure. Yeah,
So
one it came out what maybe like 7 years ago at this point. Like
I don't
I
even
can't
remember.
quite remember, but
I
it's
I remember seeing the commercials on TV for the first one, and
yeah.
it didn't
I mean,
intrigue me at first, but I think I watched it for the first time, like just the like first half or in the little pieces. It was around a few years ago, and that's when I started getting into it. And then I was like, okay, I have an idea of what's going on now.
hmm personally, when I watched the first movie, I thought it was a very strange movie. Like it when it ended, I was just like, wow, that was like a good movie, but it just felt really weird. Like it wasn't. It's not a regular movie. It's like when I saw it, at least, it just felt strange because like maybe it's because the protagonist is a villain, at least in the first movie. So like it feels weird that you're cheering for the bad guy, and
Mm,
then in the second movie, I believe he becomes like he finds a lady who's good, and he tries to be good guy or whatever.
mhm,
And apparently, from what I saw in the trailer, in the third movie, he goes back to being the bad guy or something with his evil twin brother. And so, yeah, I think it's gonna be a good movie, and I'm pretty hyped to watch it. So,
yeah, and it's definitely going to be an interesting sequel. And speaking of sequels of popular movie franchises, recently the fifth Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out, fifth installment.
oh yes, I watched it. I liked it. What do you think?
I mean, I went to see it roughly 3 weeks ago now, maybe a little less. I can't fully remember, but I did enjoy it a lot. I went in and I was honestly expecting a film where it wouldn't be consistent with the prequels. It wouldn't follow up on the story. But I knew that Orlando Bloom, who plays Will, would be in it, and I knew that Keira Knightley, who plays Elizabeth, I knew that they would both be in it. So I knew there
Yeah.
would be some consistency in the movies, but uh, spoiler alert, you don't see that much of them. They're
hmm
they have very brief roles, especially Elizabeth. But
Yeah.
overall, I thought the movie was really good. There was a lot of action. Uh, it's mostly oriented around Jack
hmm
rather than Elizabeth and Will. It provides a lot of closure for certain characters. Um, we definitely get that closure with Will and Elizabeth. Like in the third movie, we know that Will becomes the new Davy Jones, and
hmm
the fourth movie failed to deliver on what happens to him after, or what happens to Elizabeth now. It just it just goes off on a tangent and shows what Jack is doing. But this,
Yeah.
it tied up all of those loose ends, and that's
Absolutely.
what I love most about it.
Personally, I missed one or two of the previous Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but I watched this one a couple weeks ago. I definitely enjoyed it, but since I didn't know the full context of some things, I was just not sure if exactly what was happening in some parts. But the movie itself was great. Actually, I was very intrigued in one part when I saw a character and it looked to me a lot like Paul McCartney, and I was like joking to my friend, like, "Look, it's Paul McCartney." And then in the end credit scene, I actually saw Paul McCartney. I was like, "Whoa, he's actually in it." So that was very interesting for me. Like, I didn't expect him to be acting in a movie because like
Just
he's
not his
I don't
thing. It's just usually you
yeah
don't see him in movies.
I don't think he had ever acted in a movie. I'm not quite sure though,
I remember
but
you telling me that he was in it. I was just sitting there.
yeah,
I was talking about the newest Pirates movie, and you were like, "Oh yeah, Paul McCartney was in it," and I thought
yeah,
you were just joking. I was like, "No, he wasn't." And then I saw that he was playing Uncle Jack,
Uncle Jack. That's right.
and I checked the cast of the movie, and I saw, of course, there was Paul McCartney listed right there. And so I ran to my
Yeah.
brother's room, and I was like, "Oh my God, did you know that Paul McCartney was in that?" It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
random.
it was
But
definitely
yeah,
something
absolutely.
unexpected. But
So, what do you think? Do you think this is the last movie for the franchise, or are they going to make a new one? You did mention that they tied up a lot of loose ends, but do you think there's a chance for another one?
uh, well, they did tie up the loose ends left over from the first three movies. They tied up what happens to Will and Elizabeth. They tied up what happens to Barbosa. Um, but in the fourth movie, there was a loose end at the end of that film. It might have been an after credit scene. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember that there's this scene where Jack's uh, Jack's newest quote unquote girlfriend, who is Blackbeard's daughter, she is seen on a beach holding a voodoo doll of Jack, and then
Right.
it cuts to black. And that was a loose end that just failed to be tied up. They didn't mention
That's
it
true.
in the fifth movie. There was little mention of Blackbeard or anything that happened in the fifth movie, in the fourth movie. Sorry, you
Yeah,
just they show the bottle of the containing the black pearl, and that's
that's
real.
right.
That's really like that's the only part of the movie where you would be confused if you hadn't seen the fourth one. But other
Oh
than
yeah.
that, if you didn't see the fourth one, you would be fine. You would just be like, why is
Mm-hmm.
the black pearl in a bottle? But
Right. Yeah, and I think I saw the fourth one. I believe the one I missed was the third one. So that's why I still had like some doubts about the plot, but it was like still not too difficult to follow itself. But
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, to answer your question too, just I think they could do a sequel if they really tried. I think that they would be okay if they just stopped here. Of course, there's that loose end from the fourth movie, but I don't believe that it's something audiences would make a fuss about.
Yeah.
But it's I think they could stop now. I'm not saying they should. I would enjoy another one as long as it's as long as it's a quality movie.
For
But
sure.
I would also be happy if they just left it as it is. So, and speaking of prequels too, or not prequels, sequels,
That's right.
we have Star Wars Episode VIII coming out this December.
The Last Jedi.
Exactly. And we don't know if Jedi is plural or singular in this context. We don't know if it's Last Jedi referring to Luke and Rey, plural, just Luke, or just Rey. We don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, like now that you mention it, I had always imagined Jedi as singular because like I never even gave much thought to the fact that the plural of Jedi is also Jedi,
Hmm.
and I always thought it meant Luke, obviously because of the ending of the last movie, and uh, that was just my assumption. But now that you do mention it, it's certainly quite possible that it could be plural, and it could be Rey as well. So that is very interesting and something to look forward.
Yeah, I've seen theories saying how Jedi could just be singular referring to Luke because Rey technically, well, many think that she isn't a Jedi yet.
Right.
She, of course, she didn't kill Kylo, but she defeated him in combat, but it doesn't technically prove herself to be a Jedi. I mean,
Hmm.
she definitely has a lot to learn before she can officially become one. Of course, there's also theories suggesting that Luke may die. We're
I can see
just
that for
we're
sure.
not sure, but I think that the movie is going to be really good. Of course, that it's going to be the last Star Wars movie where we'll see Leia because Carrie
Yeah,
Fisher's death recently.
that's right.
Um, of course, like that it'll be emotional to see her one last time in a Star Wars movie, of course.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know we're gonna see probably more of C-3PO and R2-D2 as well. More of Chewbacca.
Yes.
We saw Chewbacca plenty in the Force Awakens. Same with
Hmm.
Han Solo and a little bit of Leia, but I feel like in this one we'll see a lot more of the original cast aside from Han Solo, Harrison Ford. And that's
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do you think that Snoke's identity will be revealed?
Um, Honestly, I don't think so, but who knows? Honestly, because I think they might wait until the next one. But honestly, I don't know. I think for this next movie, I'm not really too sure what to expect other than like I'm just personally hyped to see Luke again and I don't know, I haven't made any predictions as to what's going to happen. What do you think? Like what are your expectations of the movie? Like have you given any thought to what you think is going to happen?
Um, it's hard to say what's going to happen. One thing I do know for sure is that Rey will most likely begin her training.
For
Um,
sure.
but that may seem contradictory because if you watch the most recent trailer, you hear Luke saying it's time for the Jedi to end,
Yes.
which does definitely throw a wrench in everyone's theories as to what's going to happen in this movie. We all have a loose idea, very vague idea of what's going to happen, but it's
For
difficult
sure.
to say what the plot is going to be as a whole, um, especially for Kylo and Snoke.
Yeah.
I feel like I too feel like Snoke's identity won't be revealed until most likely the
Hmm.
very last movie. I feel
Yeah,
as
that's
if
what I
they're
think.
trying to mimic what they did for Emperor Palpatine in the
Now, do you
original
think
trilogy.
what about Darth Vader? Like, I remember way back from the trailers of The Force Awakens, they showed the mask and everything.
Hmm.
But did anything even happen, like, related to that? Or
In the Force
is,
Awakens.
yeah, I can't quite remember.
Um, I recall Kylo. He sort of kept the remains of Vader's mask. I
Right.
guess as a reminder of what he's going to be or what he's
Yes.
striving to become, and he's ignoring the fact, or he might not know the fact, yeah, that Vader turned good in the end, that he
Hmm.
achieved
That's
peace
true.
and he fulfilled the prophecy that he was the chosen one to bring balance to the Force. He wants to become more powerful, and he's using Vader's mask as a
So,
sense
yeah.
as a source of motivation to become the best Sith he can possibly be. He's trying to
Yeah, it's
become a
very
Sith.
interesting. So we know that this like set of Star Wars movies will be um, a trilogy. So do you think it's possible that this movie will simply be like a transition movie towards like to build up to the next one, or do you think it'll actually have like quite a bit of plot of its own and like have a lot of action itself?
I think it's going to be sort of what Episode 5 was to the franchise. I believe that it's going to be a transition movie and sort of something of its own because it's going to introduce new characters, I believe. Like Episode 5, we introduced Lando,
Yeah.
who was became a main character. He was main part of the group, and I feel like we're going to see some new characters being introduced in Episode 8 who will play a crucial role in Episode 9. So not only will this be a transition movie, we're going to see it as having a plot all of its own while contributing to the whole plot of the new trilogy.
Yeah, I think that actually makes quite a bit of sense. And personally, I'm extremely hyped. And as I told you earlier, I haven't even seen Rogue One, so I gotta get to that as well.
Yeah,
So
you have to get to that.
uh, absolutely,
It's
yeah.
definitely something to
I've
look forward
heard
to.
I've heard quite a lot of good things about Rogue One, so gotta watch that, and then in a few months we'll get to see The Last Jedi. But now that we're talking about The Last Jedi, what do you think about Game of Thrones
Ooh, yeah, that's coming up too. It's also
season
coming up in
seven? Is
in a
coming
few
up
months.
quite soon. Actually,
Yeah,
just in less than a month. Wait, is it August or July?
it's July
July.
17th, I
So
believe.
17th. We got less than a month, just a few weeks until season seven of Game of Thrones, which seems to be building up to be quite a season. I know that you've watched both trailers so far, and personally, I love them. I love the last one that just came out. The second one, um, it was it gave me the chills. It gave me goosebumps because
Hmm.
the little song that was playing from that one episode where everything went down. That was one of my favorite episodes, and that song is playing in the trailer, and it just makes you feel like something amazing is going to happen.
Yeah,
And then
definitely.
I believe you hear the voice of Sansa.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I'm gonna try not to say too much about it because I
yeah,
know that Game of Thrones is very popular, and I don't want there to be spoilers for people trying to catch up. But
yes,
I will say that the trailer does look very promising, and I'd also like to correct that it's July 16th for season when we'll see
six.
the
Yeah,
beginning of
that's right.
season seven. Definitely, I agree with you that the two short trailers that they've released so far, they both look amazing. Um, they both look like they're packed with action. We're gonna see probably the losses of a lot of beloved characters that we've
Definitely.
grown to
Yeah,
cherish like over these past few seasons. We're gonna see.
and I mean that's what makes Game of Thrones. Like it's such an intense show because you really do not know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to die. Like most shows, you think, oh, this is my main character. This is the character we all know and love. Obviously, nothing's going to happen to him. Like maybe he'll get in some trouble, but he's not going to die. He's going to keep thriving through. However, in Game of Thrones, that's just not the case. You can love a character. You can just be very fond of a character, and they will die. They don't care. You can hate a character. They will live on, or they will also die. It's just very the story
Unpredictable.
is extremely unpredictable. Yes, and that it just hooks you. It's I love it. So
Yeah, it's definitely a show where you just don't know who you're going to lose or when. I mean, we if you watch other shows, of course, like there's many shows where the main character they stick around and they live on or they die in the last episode. But
yeah,
Game of
Game of
Thrones, they
Thrones.
don't when I first started watching that show, I was like, okay, this is the main character. He's nothing's gonna happen. And then there was that scene, I won't say who, but
Yeah,
just that scene where who everyone thought was going to be the main character just dies. And
that's right.
it's definitely what separates Game of Thrones from the pack. You lose the characters that you think are the main characters, but it focuses on so many different storylines that you grow to fall in love with characters that you once hated, like, and you even
Yeah, yeah,
sympathize with them.
exactly. Like there's definitely some characters who at first you're like, yeah, these guys like just don't deserve to be in this show, and then a few a few seasons will go by, and then you'll be like, this is probably one of my favorite characters now, and yeah, it's extremely intriguing.
There's a
It's
profound sense of character development throughout the whole show, and
yeah,
it's not just where one character will develop and turn a full 360. It's basically everyone changes because of everything that's constantly going on in the show. you
But now,
you just you continue to love these characters, and then maybe they do something, and then you start hating them. Maybe the character you hated at first, they do something you really like, and now you're fully in love with that character.
exactly, yeah, you'll really get into each character. Like you can really like empathize with people, and you can really like it's extremely good show in that way. Like you will feel what the characters are feeling, and you'll try to be like, oh, this character just shouldn't be living anymore. Why is he still going on? And then something will happen, and you'll change your mind. But yeah, Game of Thrones is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. But you know, I'm starting to feel like there may be two or three characters that might actually be like the main characters that perhaps might end up like actually living on till the end. But I mean, again, as we've mentioned, we don't really know that. But I have a feeling I'm not going to name them, of course,
Yeah,
no spoilers, but I have a feeling that these two or three characters might just like end up living, and then one certain main one will live on. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Like that's the
yeah,
way the show is.
it does. Like,
And I think it's also a good thing. Like if I mean, if all our main characters died, then I don't know. I feel like it would absolutely lose a lot of its fan base. But since some of the main characters that we really do like are living on, we can still see their story and see how they progress.
mhm.
It's yeah, I think that's what keeps a lot of people watching, including myself, perhaps.
Yeah,
So
I completely agree. It's always a risky move to kill off a character you think would just completely outrage the
yeah,
fans. It's a
but they
risk.
did they did very well. Like they have done it very well, and of course, it started with the books, and now it's just moving on to the series by itself. So they are extremely well written, and honestly, yeah, I'm very glad they made it into a series because
It's definitely one of my favorite TV shows out there.
yeah, just
Oh, lots of other shows can't compete.
extremely excited
I
for
remember
July 16th.
when I first started Game of Thrones, and I thought I thought I was gonna hate it. I it's definitely one of those shows where it appeals to a very patient and intelligent audience, like
Certainly,
who is able to submerge themselves in character development and dialogue. And it's
yeah,
definitely a type it definitely appeals to a type of audience that isn't ceaselessly craving action and
yeah,
violence
yeah,
all of the
totally.
time. And Game
And
of Thrones delivers in those aspects, but not every single episode. They make it so you savor it when it does happen. They make it very
exactly.
special.
And here's the thing: there's so many characters and so many different lines of plot that
Hmm.
are going on at the same time that sometimes you'll even forget that one is happening. You'll be like, "Oh yeah, these guys are doing this in this part of the world," and then they'll go back to another one, and you'll be like, "Oh right, this is also happening at the same time." And then perhaps you'll be like, "Well, maybe soon they'll meet," and then you can see both like branches swirling into each other. It's the plot is just really good, and
Yeah,
I just
we're definitely going to see how those characters will maybe
oh yeah,
meet up in this next season. We're not sure.
perhaps. I mean, from what I've heard, it's only 8 episodes, which means that it's got to be some 8 really good episodes, right? Like,
But I've also heard that the finale of the season it's quite long. I think it's I don't want to give wrong information. But I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the finale. It's going to be like a full movie. It's going to be like an hour and a half,
Wow.
which
You
it
know,
might as well just be a movie.
yeah, like these shows often impress me a lot because, movies take like years and years to make and to do everything for it. And these shows are like extremely in depth and have a lot of detail in them.
Hmm.
And yet they manage to make them like so long and have so many episodes. Like,
And
I'm
they
not sure
they
how they
produce
do
them
it.
so quickly too.
Yeah,
In in comparison to movies, movies still. I mean, I realize movies have more special effects and they have to um,
yeah.
just takes more to make a movie. But Game of Thrones, the
Game of
quality
Thrones, like,
isn't far off from that of a movie.
yeah,
It's in some cases it's even better. It has better writing,
absolutely.
better screenplay, better everything than a lot of movies I've seen. When I
Yeah, it
was
is
when
certainly.
and going back to Parts of the Caribbean, the fifth installment, I was watching it and just the quality of it, it was the same as I'd expect from Game of Thrones, any ordinary episode. And
Yeah, for
it
sure.
just
Like,
astounds me because each Game of Thrones episode is 1 hour long. And
yeah,
most movies range from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, which is basically 1.5 to two
yeah,
and a half Game of Thrones
incredible.
episodes.
They took only a year to make this season, and it's let's say it's 8 episodes, one which is 2 hours, and the rest are about an hour. So they have basically 9 hours of screenplay done in just a single year, and it's actually like very, very quality
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
So
I'm definitely very appreciative of all of the hard work that goes into it.
it
Just
is it is so
everything
admirable.
they
I mean,
do, and
the actors are great. The editing is amazing.
hmm
Yeah,
just I'm looking forward to that. And
I can't wait, man.
the last topic
But
for tonight, um, we're a little late on this, right? It's a topic that I'm sure many people have heard about. We're about
we have to talk
we're
about it.
nearly 3 months late, but it's the closure of Disney's Club Penguin website, which is,
It's gone.
yeah, it's gone. It's shut its doors forever nearly 3 months ago. It closed on March 30th, 2017. Its servers
That's right.
officially shut down, and that game served
And
as
there's
a hub for kids of all ages for over a decade.
yeah, it's incredible. I mean, that's a massive chunk of my um, childhood. Personally, I I played that game since I was like probably since I was like 8 or
Hmm.
less, maybe even. Like I remember one day when I was very young. I think less than 8, maybe even 6 or 7. I saw my older brother playing because his friends were like, "Hey, we found this cool game online. This Club Penguin. You want to play with us tonight?" And he was like, "Sure." And I saw him playing it, and I was like, "Oh my god, that game looks really cool." So I played it myself. I had so much fun, and then I mean, it was one of those games that I've played for a while, and then I stopped playing it, and then I came back to it for nostalgia, and then I loved it again,
Hmm.
and then I stopped playing it again, and then I came back to it more than a few times, and it was just really fun. I was never actually like a member because I rarely ever paid for anything online kind of thing, but
Yeah.
everything, even for a free to play player, it was very fun. Like the sled racing, the ice fishing, the beanbag game. Damn, those were fun. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
What
I
about you?
definitely made lots of memories on that game. I discovered the game in a similar way. I remember it was about um 2000, it was like early 2006, and my brother, he was at school one day, and a friend of his, who was also a friend of mine in a sense, named Calvin. He said, "Hey, do you want this penguin named 1, 2, 3, 4A?" And I was like, "Sure," because he always wanted my brother to go on and play with him, but my brother never stuck to his promise that he would play. So Calvin made a penguin and gave it to my brother, and he played it. He wasn't too thrilled about it at first, but I remember watching him, and as the months went on, I was like, "Whoa, I really want to try that." And so I would beg him at times, be like, "Hey, can I play ice fishing? Can I go ice fishing?" And I would just try to get to do that and go sled racing and do whatnot, just to get a feel for what it was like. And eventually, um, just a few months after he got the account, actually a little less time, can't remember fully, but he just fully gave me the account, and it was mine, and I just enjoyed it for a while. I definitely
Nice.
I played a lot of games, and I even bought a membership, 1 month membership, which it lasted me a while because for some reason, I bought a membership for 1 month and I kept it for 2 years. And it
Nice.
wasn't a recurring membership or anything. It just stayed with my account, which was very weird.
It's awesome.
But why do you think that a game that's been around for so long, why do you think it just closed its doors all of a sudden? I mean, they only gave a 3 month notice.
Right. So I was actually talking about this with a friend when they announced it, and I was asking her the same thing. I was like, why in the world would this happen? If I mean, I'm sure there's still plenty of people that were playing the game, and she told me that it is because I mean they still have to do a lot of maintenance that requires a lot of money for them. Like they have to pay the translators for every language. They have to pay like all the developers, and they're still making like new content, so the game doesn't go stale. So
Hmm.
they were still had to spend a lot of money on it, and I guess they were just not making any revenue from it, or at least not enough.
Yeah, not as much as they
So
hoped for.
exactly, yeah, definitely not as much as they once did, because obviously the game did die down from what it once was. But I mean, personally, I think it could have kept going somehow in some way, but it is what it is. What do you think? Like, where do you think they went wrong?
Um, I don't think, I mean, they went wrong in the aspect that they failed to advertise as much as they used to. Their advertising died down a little bit over the years. But the other factor that contributed to their downfall, it wasn't necessarily their fault. It was just the presence of competition. It was it's other online games we see um, that just lure in kids with more promises of just quality content and more room to be creative and just free online. There's platforms, a popular one now, it's Roblox, and there's the rise of Steam. And when Club Penguin was first made, there wasn't that much competition. Of course, you had RuneScape, World of Warcraft, but
Hmm.
there wasn't, and Roblox was in its early stages, but you didn't have that much serious competition. Now you have
Yeah, and
Roblox at its Roblox is better than it's ever been in terms of popularity. You have Minecraft, League of Legends, and just all
yeah,
of these
there's so
Steam
much.
games, and there's just so much variety that appeals to these kids, and they don't want a game where you just focus on talking to people all day. They want action,
That's
adventure,
true.
excitement. They want more.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's something else that I've considered, and I've heard this from so many people. I've heard this all over so many times. I've heard this. Disney ruins everything. Disney ruined Club Penguin. Uh, they shouldn't have bought it, and I don't know. I mean, personally, I'm not sure what to think about that. I think Club Penguin was definitely a good game before Disney acquired it, but I don't think Disney actually like ruined it per se. I think Disney may have changed it in ways that that they could have done a better job at it in some things, but I mean, Disney bought Club Penguin very early on. Like
It was
maybe
2007, I
Club Penguin
believe,
was
when they bought
yeah,
it.
and Club Penguin was launched 2005,
5.
right? Yeah, so it was basically 2 years in, and I think Club Penguin peaked its popularity way. I mean, not maybe not way after Disney bought it, but it was definitely into the period where it had already been bought by Disney. In fact, you were showing me some stats.
Oh yeah, and I have those right now. So there's this neat tool on Google. If you look up Google Trends, it'll show you the search results for certain terms. For me right now, I just looked up Club Penguin in Google Trends, and it'll give me its score of how much interest it has had over time. One thing I've noticed is that Club Penguin, its popularity significantly increased once Disney bought it, and I believe that it's because Disney has so much money at their disposal to fund marketing
Mhm.
and just keep the game going, keep it exciting, hire more developers, hire more of everyone basically, just to make more quality content, make more unique parties, and just make it an overall safer game. Um, the interest over time, it shows that Club Penguin it peaked, reaching a score of 100 in 2010. And for those of you that don't know this tool, it's basically it shows these points. That's what I'm going to refer to them as, ranging from 0 to 100. And from 2006 to 2007, there was a slight increase over time in the interest, ranging from the 20s to 40s. And then once Disney bought it, it climbed further and further, eventually reaching the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and eventually 100.
Yeah,
But after 2010, which is when it peaked at 100, of course, Club Penguin started declining. And the reason for this is because other games at the time were just starting up. You saw, we're going to see Minecraft soon. We're going to see Steam, League of Legends soon. All these other games that are just going to start bringing kids away from Club Penguin. And eventually you're going to see around, I'm just going to take a sample, just July 2014, it's back at 40. And then if you look at March 2016, it's at 10.
right.
And if you look at December 2016, it's at 8. And there
Yeah,
was a brief period of time in 2017, April and March 2017, where it was reaching 16 to 17 again, because of course that's when
yeah,
it announced its closure and people were going back one last time to see.
yeah. Everyone's going back for the nostalgia.
Hmm.
Club Penguin's shutting down. Oh no, come on. Let's just play it one more time. Yeah,
Exactly. And it's because of this that I won't say Disney ruined it. I feel like they did a good job for the first 3 to 4 years of keeping it popular, keeping it profitable, and they're not to blame for other games being
yeah,
more interesting. And I'm not saying Club Penguin isn't an interesting game. I'm just saying that it doesn't appeal to all audiences. It's not going to appeal to those kids who want action, who want its sense of adventure. It's a game that is oriented around kids talking to one another. And you were telling me before that, didn't you say censorship was becoming a problem too?
oh yeah, absolutely. Like Um, yeah, I remember at some points you'd be with your buddies playing Club Penguin, and you'd try to say something that wasn't even inappropriate whatsoever, and then after a while you'd realize that they didn't see the message at all. So um, I was thinking is there something Disney could have done to prevent this? And come to think of it, perhaps this censorship thing was somewhat the deal with it because it did get pretty ridiculous at times. I understand that they wanted to keep all the kids that played it safe, and that makes perfect sense, obviously, because there's obviously many kids playing the game, and there's a lot of threats that can happen online. But
Definitely.
I think it went a little too far with the censorship because you could even say like, "Hello, my friend, how are you?" And then for whatever reason, it would get censored, and you wouldn't know. That's one of the worst parts that you were telling me. Like, it doesn't tell you like this message was not sent. Sorry. It was just like, oh, you see it, but other people don't. So yeah,
Yeah, they could have utilized other methods of telling the user that, hey, your message didn't fully show. Roblox
for
does
sure.
this. They employ the use of hashtags to show what
Hashtag,
words were
yeah.
censored, or they just use hashtags to censor your entire message. And as annoying as that can be,
At
at
least you can know that it
at
happened.
least you know that they
Yeah.
can't see what you're saying. Club Penguin, it was just you type something and then that following that you type in did that show. And if they said yes, you're in the clear. If they said no, you got to go through 100 different ways to find out how to convey that message. So
Yeah.
that definitely frustrated people, especially little kids who don't want to sit around and try to devise a formula for saying the simplest of things, even things
Mhm.
that aren't necessarily malicious. Just
Yeah. And for kids, it could take a while to type since they're not like too fast at it. And so, yeah, again, it gets pretty annoying. So,
yeah, exactly.
but
It's
in your
definitely not
opinion,
something that they want. It's definitely not something that
yeah,
they want to deal with.
for sure. But do you think, other than the censorship issue, do you think there was anything Disney could have done to save Club Penguin uh, up to this point?
Um, they would have had to recreate what Club Penguin is, which they did in a sense with
Right.
Club Penguin Island. And I had I guess you could call it the pleasure of trying it out. And
Yeah.
it went on, and it abides by a storyline, a loose storyline, and it reminds me of Wizard 101. There's a story, and you get these quests, and you follow them. But as you go, you can talk to other people, play games, and whatnot. And you're not bound to sticking by the quest. Club Penguin did that with Club Penguin Island, but of course, people don't like it because it fully replaced what Club Penguin was. Um,
Now, give me a second. For those of you guys that don't know, Club Penguin Island is the game that they made to basically replace Club Penguin, and it is a mobile game. So it's not exactly what you'd think of when you think of Club Penguin. You think, oh yeah, computer game where you click around to move around. But this is a mobile game in the App Store and the iTunes Store. So yeah, it's not the same. So
yeah,
as
it's completely different. It's not if you look at it, if you just look on the Google Play Store, the App Store on your phone, you'll notice that it's three-dimensional. It's no longer that 2D looking flash game that you had. It's 3D, and it's a whole new style. But the reception in these for this game isn't that great. Right now I have it open on my phone. It has a 2.6 rating overall. 2.6 stars out of 5.
Yeah, and I've
So
heard. I mean, the biggest complaint I've heard about Club Penguin Island is it is absolutely pay to play almost. Like, yes, it is a free game, but to do almost anything, you have to
pay
purchase
up.
stuff with real money. Yeah.
Yeah,
And personally, I have not played the game, but that's what I've heard.
when I played, I remember I started my mission, as they call it, and I was walking around and I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. I don't see what people are complaining about. And then all I wanted to do was ride a simple zip line. So I tap it and the membership window pops up.
Wow.
It's like, oh, okay. And so they definitely restrict people from having the freedom to do what they want and making it so they have to pay.
Mhm.
And if you look in these reviews, I'm gonna just read some of them right now. Um, a lot of the reviews are just complaining about how it's pay to play. This one is by Caitlin Snow. It was this review was published on June 23rd, 2017, so just yesterday. It says, why make this game free if you basically pay to play? When the island is
Mhm.
full, it logs you out and you have to sign back in again. Please just at least keep non-members alive by making them actually allowed to buy food. When I try to buy clothes, not one single thing is for non-members. If I try to buy at least something, oh, what a surprise. I need membership. I have played lots of bad games before, but this is a ripoff. And this other one by Demir That Bloxer says, seriously, why do you to be a member clothes to wear clothes? It isn't fair. I want Club Penguin back, not this. To me, this is just greed. It's always money. Hashtag bring Club Penguin back. And if you read on in these reviews, it's definitely just people who are frustrated with the idea that you have to pay to basically enjoy the game. And there's other complaints about technical difficulties. People don't like the graphics.
Yeah.
The controls are awkward, people have said, and it's very rare that you're going to see a positive review. I'm scrolling through them right
Yeah.
now.
So
Um,
do you think if this were a completely free to play game, would it be a suitable replacement for Club Penguin that people actually enjoy and that the reviews would be better? It would have like a higher rating and whatnot.
if it wasn't exclusively for mobile devices, yes, it could,
Right.
and it wasn't pay to play, of course. It could be an adequate replacement. Um, I believe it would be sort of like how Wizard 101 is, except without the idea of paying, so just enjoy it.
Mhm.
Um, you, they could keep it on the phone, in the phones too, and just all mobile devices, but definitely bring it back to computers. Just
Mhm.
it'll be more comfortable to play there than it would on your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is talking as a player. Now, Club Penguin as a franchise, do you think they're thriving more now with Club Penguin Island? I mean, it would make sense as that's the decision they made, but what do you think?
Um, I don't know if they're thriving more. Based on the Google Play Store, which it doesn't speak for all of the app stores out there, but it has 1 million downloads. But then again, a lot of its ratings are just negative and they're losing a lot of players. I don't think it will be available that much longer, but it's hard to say.
Right.
What do you think about this?
I mean, one thing to consider is that as a mobile game, it's definitely smaller than what Club Penguin was before, so it's probably quite cheaper to keep. And I'm not sure. I don't really know this, but I'm assuming it uh only has one server, or at least just a few servers, not the way it was with Club Penguin where it had like tens
Dozens,
of
dozens,
servers.
and dozens of
Yeah.
servers. It was, yeah,
So actually,
they definitely
yeah, that's
downsized.
another thing. That's another thing I was thinking. Like, couldn't they have just downsized the server size and like made it way cheaper for them to keep the game? I'm not an expert in this, but I feel like if they had just made it like 10 servers or so, they could have made it way cheaper for themselves and perhaps even keep the game going. I really do not know, but yeah, is Club Penguin Island just a single server game or?
Um, I'm not fully sure that it is, but what you were saying about Club Penguin before, I think they could have stayed open if they downsized, but I think the problem with that is that they wouldn't have been able to make a profit. And of course, if you're owning a just a company, you want to make a profit. You don't want to just continuously make ends meet.
That's true.
And I feel like if they downsized, they would have just ceaselessly made ends meet. And Disney wants to make a profit out of their assets. They don't want to just make enough to barely keep the game alive. And before Club Penguin started to go under, before it announced that it was closing, the game itself, it wasn't that popular. You would see very few servers that were densely populated. There would be one or two, but that was it. There, out of dozens and dozens of servers, all of the other servers were just abandoned.